I'm Kate.
I'm Sonya.
I'm Beverly.
And today we're dishing with you from Food, Wine, and Company, located in Bethesda at 7272 Wisconsin Avenue.
Sometimes we get out of D.C.
We do.
Just a little bit.
It's a good thing, just over the border, but look at all this fabulous food. You've got the hickory burger and the chips. You've got a great beet salad, and they're also really fabulous entrees. They do fish really well here. So you have the salmon entree, and look at all this beer.
And they take care of you really well. They gave me my own little bucket.
You have to share.
We are having beer flights today, but we're located in Food, Wine, and Company's wine library. You should see all of the wines behind us. This is definitely a great place to be, here or in the dining room.
And we're dishing tonight with Tom Carter. He is the spokesperson for the Arlington Egg Project. The Arlington Egg Project, that's an interesting title. Is it about eggs?
It is about eggs. You folks, you're food folks, right?
Yes.
So you know the difference. I'm sure you've tasted the difference between a fresh egg and an egg that you get from the grocery store that's probably been sitting there for weeks, maybe, between the processing plant and your table. So Arlingtonians are uniting to try to take back the right to have our own hens in our backyard so we can have fresh eggs every morning.
So there's a lot of people in Arlington that want to have their own eggs, or is this like a few of you that have banded together?
We've gotten over 1,000 people
who there's a lot of you
who say recommending that the county board change the zoning regulations so that we can do this.
What is the current zoning regulation? Is how many hens can I have? Roosters, chicks?
Well, actually, that's an interesting question. Hens are legal now in Arlington, but only if you have a very big yard. Okay. You have to have 100 feet on all sides of your coop to your neighbor's yard. So that means you have to have somewhere between half an acre and a 1 acre lot. And I know you live in Arlington, and I know you know that most people do not have anywhere near that size.
No.
So is that why this hasn't been really, DC doesn't hear about this a lot because none of us have yards? Is that why?
Well, there's actually a movement in Washington to do this too.
Okay.
This isn't a fringe thing. There have been over 500 communities in the past 2 years in the United States that have specifically allowed their residents to have hens in their backyard.
But don't you need space? I mean, I'm not originally from Arlington. I grew up in a really rural area, and all the people there had lots of land for the chickens and
we
the
want to
cows
be humane to the chickens.
Well, it depends how many you have.
You don't want them in a confined space.
That's right. If you have tens of thousands of chickens, you need a lot of space. If you have 4, 5, 6 chickens, an average size backyard is plenty of room.
Well, is that normal? Do you need 5 or 6 chickens? How many chickens do you think?
For an average family in Arlington who wants to eat fresh eggs every day, how many chickens do you need?
Well, if they're at their peak of their laying season when they're laying one a day, it depends on how many people are in the family and how many of them want to have an egg every day. But generally, 4, 6, it depends on the number you want. And we haven't really specified a number that we're asking for in the zoning regulations. But if you have a small number of hens like that, and you let them, you either move their coop around or you have a fenced-in area where they can run around a backyard or something with a fence, then the average Arlington backyard is plenty of space.
Now, I have to ask, what's been the reaction? Have you gotten any feedback from the powers that be in Arlington County?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the Arlington County Board just launched a local sustainable agriculture initiative, and they want backyard hens to be a part of that initiative.
Well, it sounds like 1,000 people signed your petition, then it's clearly people are wanting hens in their backyard.
And as I said, there are a lot of communities doing this in places like Charlottesville, Raleigh, North Carolina, Portland, Madison, Wisconsin, but a lot of big cities too, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. They never even banned it in those cities. You've always been allowed to have hens.
What got you interested in this? You were just such an egg connoisseur that you thought, like, no, I'm going to go super local.
Loves his scrambled in the morning.
I've got a couple of friends who have hens in their backyard. One who lives in Fairfax County and one who lives in Montgomery County. And so I've visited the hens and I've had their eggs. And I just think it's a neat idea. I like the idea of backyard gardening, and backyard hens go hand in hand with that. They can eat your table scraps, so they're sort of instant composters, and then you can use the waste as a fertilizer.
Any table scraps? So even meat and that
I don't know about
or
any
you're doing
table scraps,
grain.
but
You're
general table scraps. Anything you would compost, you can feed to your hens.
So, okay, do you have a hen in your backyard now?
No, I don't, because they're still not.
Because they're not
I don't
allowed
have a
to
big
yet.
enough
Okay,
yard.
but
Yeah.
what would your? Can you explain to me
How does one go from 0 to 60 eggs a day? Like how can we go from not having eggs in our backyard to getting a chicken?
What does a
first,
hen
of course,
need?
Well, it's
And how many
actually-
eggs do they lay
It's a significant
per day?
Well, a good laying hen will lay 1 egg a day.
Okay.
That's sort of what you want to. That's what you're shooting for, and they have to reach a certain age before they do that. It takes them about 6 months usually before they get to where they start laying, and they might lay less in the winter. The temp they like to lay when it's warmer. So spring, summer, and fall they're going to lay more than they would.
Now, if it's approved, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just so curious. If it's approved, will you be able to sell your eggs, or is it only for your use?
Good
Just
question.
for your use. And as a matter of fact, Montgomery County had a court case where somebody said, well, you're raising a farm animal in the county, that's not allowed. And they said, well, no, this isn't a farm animal. I'm not selling these eggs. They're basically a pet. And they won that case, so that's why hens are legal now in Montgomery County. But just to go back to your question about what kind of a commitment it involves,
Right.
you need to either build or buy a coop. You need to make sure that your hens are humanely and securely contained in your yard. They need a place where they can go to sleep at night, where they can be safe from predators. So they go to bed when the sun goes down. They like to all sleep together in a small little coop. But then during the day, you want them to be able to run around some.
And we keep saying hens because we're not talking about roosters here.
Right. Roosters are very loud. They crow in the morning.
And they do not lay eggs.
And they do
Right,
not
they
lay
don't lay, and they're not necessary for the laying of eggs.
Okay.
As a male, that makes me feel, it bruises my ego a bit to know that the roosters are completely superfluous when it comes to laying eggs, but that's the truth.
So we kind of talked about how the regulations would need to change, but what's next? What's the next step? You've gathered all these names for the petition, and what are we waiting on?
Well, Arlington County started this initiative, and what they'll do is assign a task force for local sustainable agriculture, and then we hope to work with that task force and go through the process. Arlington's a very process-oriented county.
It's the Arlington way.
That's the Arlington way. So we will try to inform them as much as we can during this process, and they'll talk to all sorts of people that will make sure that there aren't a large number of people who are dramatically opposed to this, and then hopefully that task force will come up with a recommendation to the county board to revise the zoning regulations.
Well, we'll be keeping our eye on it. Sounds like, it's an interesting initiative, something that I hadn't heard of before, so thanks for telling us all about it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And if
Pleasure
you're
meeting you.
interested in learning more about the Arlington Egg Project or signing that petition because you want to have hens in your backyard too, then make sure to look at their website and tell us what you think about this on our Facebook page. We'll see you here next time.